guys. Welcome to the Marathon Mindset Podcast. I'm super pumped to be here at Dorćol Distillery with the owners here. We are remote. We are on location, and I just want to get into it because we're already drinking.
So. We're already drinking. We've been drinking. You need to catch up. What are you talking about?
So go ahead and just introduce yourselves and tell me who you are, what you do, and where we're at.
I'm Chris Mobley, one of the co-founders and owners of Dorćol Distilling Brewing Company. What do we do? We all sort of do anything that needs to be done. Janitor, bartender, I pay the bills. You name it, we sort of do it. I scrub toilets from time to time, but, it's just got to get done.
Yes, sir.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I'm Boyan Kalusevic. I'm the other co-founder, and I kind of fill in those same gaps. Behind the bar, it's bar backing during the day. Dishwasher. Delivery. Some product making in there.
Yeah.
Relationship building, community development, event planning. I mean, he does a whole lot of stuff.
It's whatever you need to do.
Yeah. Well, so I got to ask you this first. So how do y'all know each other? Or
we met at UT. We were both undergrad at the University of Texas up in Austin.
The good old days.
The good old days when life was fun.
Yeah.
And
what happened?
It was all a blur.
This happened.
Yeah. It was all a blur.
No, it was.
Those were the good days. Hold on.
It was fun. It was a really good time.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had a marketing class together and sort of teamed up on a project and shit, and just kind of got to know each other through that.
Okay.
And then, I guess the rest is history, and we just sort of remained friends. And then, at the time, when I was like, I moved to San Antonio because I couldn't find a job in Austin after I graduated, and craft spirits was sort of booming, and this guy was always talking about rakia as a thing, and he was big, like, what the fuck is rakia? Like, who gives a shit about it? But it was a thing that he cared about, and so it was like I got introduced to it and tried it, and then, again, the craft spirits was booming, so I was like, hey, why don't we try to introduce something like this into the market here and just see what folks think about it.
Did y'all ever do anything like when y'all were in college? Did you ever do like home stuff? Like
it would be against the law.
Okay, just asking.
I ain't saying nothing. my lips are sealed.
Testing.
But even if you did test anything like that, it's really hard to replicate on a larger scale, right?
Got it.
If you're cooking some shit at your house,
yeah,
it's not going to turn out the way that you would want it to on a larger scale. It's super hard to scale up.
Okay.
I talk about that all the time. But so maybe we did, maybe we didn't. I don't know.
What's that TV show where they do the Kentucky
Moonshiners?
Yeah, that's a TV show.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's definitely some development. You think about things and you try a little bit things here and there, but
for sure,
how that relates to a final product is kind of.
So where are y'all both from originally?
I was born in Belgrade. Belgrade is the capital of Serbia. It's back in the day was Yugoslavia.
Right.
Southeastern Europe, Balkans, and as a kid, mom and dad immigrated with 2 boys, my brother and I, and just different jobs. My dad worked in aircraft manufacturing and brought him to San Antonio. So finished high school here, went to UT, and then a job brought me back.
Okay.
From the West Texas area.
All right.
A little town called Denver City. Near Lubbock.
Denver City?
Denver City.
Okay.
Not Denver, Colorado. Denver City, which I just normally say I'm from Lubbock, but I'm not from Lubbock, but it's the biggest town around there, So it's like I'm from the Lubbock area, so whatever, Panhandle, West Texas, it's that kind of thing.
So siblings?
Yeah, I got 2 older brothers.
Okay.
I'm the youngest. My oldest brother is still hanging out in Shallow Water, which is right outside of Lubbock. I got another brother in College Station right now. He didn't go to Texas A&M. He went to Texas Tech.
Okay.
Which is the same thing.
Yeah.
The bottom of the barrel. That's
so is your brother close by, or where is he at?
He's in San Antonio, yeah. So he stayed in San Antonio for college, and then when I moved back, we just kind of started some gigs together, worked in insurance for a while together, and he remained on that path with a gig at a large insurance company. And I kind of spun off and teamed up with another colleague, buddy of mine. We launched a small insurance brokerage firm in 08.
I was there.
And And then we were going to focus on commercial and construction in particular. And our first day in business was April 1st. It was an April Fool's Day. And I remember getting into the office wondering, is joke's on me? How do you make the phone ring?
Yeah.
And then I think that summer the world just kind of collapsed on the the financial markets.
Oh,
and,
that's right.
and
That was 08.
Commercial was a mess, and residential construction was a wreck. And from there, I think we just turned. Then I guess we just turned 12. Wow, is that possible? 08 to 20. Yeah. April 1st.
God damn.
Wow. 15 days ago.
Cheers to that, man.
I
Congrats.
didn't realize it had been
me neither.
that
We just
long.
had a birthday party.
So was
Just
that
now.
Oh yeah.
was that with our mutual friend Rolly? Okay.
Rolly with the home.
So Rolly with the homie. So that's how we were introduced to each other. My high school buddy Rolly and Boyan are partners. So I only knew Boyan through his day job, and so yeah, I didn't have this idea that he was going to be in distilling.
Bootlegging wasn't on the
Bootlegging
resume.
wasn't-
That's
yeah,
not how I
it-
pitched you the business.
Right.
When you,
Yeah. If I would have known that, I would have been different. But
you'd have stayed away. You'd have
I don't
jumped in
know.
both.
It's like how you were about me doing this, right? When
Yeah.
you saw the approach, you're like, well, that's a little bit different than what you were thinking. So, but no, so having a full-time gig, and I mean, what made you think, or what gave you the idea that you could do distilling?
Delusional.
I mean, obviously, yeah. Nobody in their right
Not the
mind.
distilling at all, just in terms
Like
of
a
like
separate
having
business.
Yeah,
The
separate
reason why
business. Yeah.
I've had people ask me like that for looking at space to maybe do a brewery or doing something like
Sure,
that,
yeah.
but this is a little bit more involved, right?
It can be, yeah, it can be. So, not to bore anybody in the differences between breweries and brew pubs, but there are some legal differences, and part of that has to do with distribution and whether the business model revolves around practically being a bar or being a production company, and the way that falls into with the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission and the different tiers in licensing. Once you're a distillery, you're in that manufacturing tier. So if you wanted to get into brewing, your only option is a brewery, not a brew pub, and we generally have a tiny space. We crank out a lot of stuff out of a small footprint, but nonetheless, you kind of ignore or pretend that people who know more and then tell you things just simply don't know. So you continue to push forward,
Right.
even though it'd been a lot easier to just take the advice from somebody who said it's a lot more fun to be on the other side of the bar than on this side.
Right.
It's cool to have a
Was that
family
your uncle,
still.
or was that
Yeah, it was the uncle, the
he
grandfather,
didn't say
the
that shit, though.
Yeah.
The uncle was the $1 million one.
Oh yeah. If you don't have $1 million in the bank account, don't even waste time doing this. Right?
I mean, that was my next question. Was like, okay, did you have a trust fund over here? I mean, how did you? I mean,
Yeah.
we've had this discussions about
Get that money?
am I hiding some shit?
about
Tell me
small
shit.
business loaning. You know what I mean? So you seem very educated in that. So I know you've gone through a lot of different things to
Secure the
with
financing?
secure financing, but not in different routes. So tell me a little bit about how that all came about without getting into all your
Too many details.
too many details.
Yeah. Skeletons, leave them in the closet, and
Yeah.
the kidneys have never been sold for a return, not yet. So that's kind of I guess you were in San Antonio by then. We were talking about doing this. We started putting together a business plan because some bankers told us, the first step to borrowing is put together a business plan. And we spent a good 6 months
while,
cranking
yeah.
out like a serious what is a business plan. You go back to your business school and I remember learning this. What am I doing
Let me
here?
Google a template.
Let me
Yeah.
Google a
How does this
template.
work?
Having the UT degree, you're like, well,
Yeah, that is. Listen,
Hey, mine
that
wasn't a
preps
business, so
that
I'm like,
preps you for a ton of learning.
Right.
We've done some incredible stuff since. On the Customs and Border Patrol stuff, on TTB stuff. I mean, whatever professional services available for somebody with a trust fund to just farm out,
Yeah.
we had to master ourselves. So there's a federal liquor manual practically that we had to dive into.
I mean, even outside of that, though, if you think about, we've had folks approach us once upon a time for zoning shit. Remember? Or no, it was TABC licensing and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Well,
licensing.
no, it was that and zoning. I think it was like folks approach you like,
Sure.
hey, we can do this for you, and you're like, I got the money for that.
Right.
we'll
Yeah,
figure it out ourselves. For certain things, I mean, you just got to figure it out yourself. Yeah.
Part of that had to do with just lack
Federal
of
licensing, state licensing, zoning, all that kind of stuff. Folks will approach you and be like, we can handle all that for you. And they might, maybe they'll do it right and well or whatever, but it's going to cost you a shitload of money.
Right.
And if you just learn how to do it,
Right.
it'll save you a ton of money.
Yeah.
And that was kind of our lack of.
We just didn't have the money.
Yeah.
That's why we had to learn ourselves.
You hate to say desperation, right? But it's like if you're committed to
necessity,
it, and
not
yeah,
desperation,
necessity.
just
Yeah.
that's how it is.
So what made you be that committed to it when you had a
So
gig
what we
already?
did, yeah. So what we had done is we had this banker tell us, hey, complete a business plan and then come back and get some funding, right? And we're gonna leave bank names out of things, but we spent 6 months doing this thing. We went to this banker, and then I kid you not, her response was, "Oh, we don't do startups." And we thought, well,
It was the best thing ever because, it was a meeting. I mean,
she had
the
met
whole
with
thing was
us.
like, you knew it was a fucking startup because
We talked about
we
this.
talked about this.
And
So
you
when
told
we were
us to go
here
get a
during
business
our
plan.
official capacity with
Yeah.
our business plan,
Right.
like, oh, we don't do startups. Like,
So
why am I here?
Right.
yeah, why do we waste this time?
Yeah.
But
Confused.
we had this business plan that then we had to figure out a way how to help fund without just the cash we had on hand. And we sent it to a family friend, a guy that was friends with my parents for a long time, and he had an ad agency design firm kind of thing. And we tasked him with sprucing it up a little bit because we just wrote up
The
2
idea
dozen
was
pages.
to send it to him to like, is this worth the shit? Can you make it better? Yeah, spruce it
Add
up,
some
but also
color,
review it just to see if
visuals.
it even is worth the shit.
Right.
Yeah, and this guy, I remember because there was a friend from college that hosts a Halloween party in Houston, and I
I'm
remember.
in Texas City, but whatever.
I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah, that's outside.
just
Oh,
outside,
okay.
Houston,
Yeah,
just
okay,
south of
whatever.
Houston.
I
Yeah,
lived
on the
there
way to
for 5
Galveston.
years.
On the way to
Galveston,
Galveston. Yeah. And I remember this trashy ass hotel or something. Waking up the next day to this guy's phone call, at the crack of dawn, who says he's too busy to review the business plan we sent him, but that he's going to invest. And we go, invest in what?
Right.
And he goes, well, invest in the company. And we didn't have a company yet, right? 'Cause
Right.
We're still
You're trying to get
we're
there.
still trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
So, I go, okay, well, we'll get back to you. We got to figure out what are we actually trying to raise? What are we trying to do? Yeah. And he had a couple of requirements. He didn't want to mess with real estate, and he wanted to make sure that it was, he was buying into the company, not into speculative land buying kind of thing.
Okay.
And so we spent the next little bit saying, okay, so we've got this extra money.
Well, I
It's
think
not
once
really
that
enough.
happened, it became legit. Like once we had that opportunity, and it was like, hey, there was a
Yeah.
person who really wanted to invest. We were kind of like,
So we have
now's the
something.
time to shit or get off the pot. It's like
Right.
we were writing a plan, and it was like kind of cute and fun. And now, when there's a possibility
Somebody's-
of like real
yeah.
money, we're like, oh, do we really want to do this? And we were like, we're never gonna have this opportunity again. So at that point, whenever this guy came through, we were
That
like,
got real.
it's
It got real, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you started going down the Rolodex, your parents, your partners, your friends,
And then yeah,
you
you're
know.
like, who else can
Who
we-
else
this
wants
is
to
a
be in on
chunk
this?
of
'Cause
change? Let's add to it.
There's no, there's no promise of any success, right? It
Sure.
was literally here's what we want to do, and it's folks saying, hey, we know that, we know the two of you won't just throw it away.
Right.
And since, 2011 or 2012, we still haven't gotten paid a dime. So, we moved a
All that
ton of
was
money
happening,
through it,
yeah,
but
I mean, 2011.
we started, we broke ground, we looked at renting, we looked at the finish out to bring the adequate utilities in, was just going to be more than what the down payment was on a new construction. And then we got goofy enough thinking that we should build something. And we found this place, and again, out of a necessity, the general contractors were bidding out a per square foot cost that the bank wasn't going to finance in the neighborhood yet. There's a lot of residential development, but there's no business comps.
Okay.
We had the city wanted to do some zoning changes generally for these infill projects and kind of figure out some rules that revolve around setbacks and densities and property use types and stuff. So, we started learning about the Uniform Development Code, the UDC, and then, had to learn the city city zoning process, because then they wanted us to rezone for something, and then it turns out the law changed right when we were about to open. That was going to let us do on-premise sales, because it used to be you could only manufacture, you couldn't sell anything.
Mm-hmm.
So
as a distillery, you could only do like half-ounce samples.
some nonsense.
So it's just like, what's the point of having?
But the law
tasting room,
changed, right before we opened that September, and we opened in December. So all of a sudden, there's this elementary school that's within 1,000 feet, which now you have to get a variance, and so there's a ton of
too, right?
the churches. Yeah, but the father,
But still, we had to get a
what was
variance
his?
from the church, and
He blessed us, man.
and they
He
were
literally.
fine. Yeah, both were.
Yeah,
It was,
it's a Catholic church. We're in
Yeah.
good standing.
and it was. I mean, luckily, we're not trying to do some. It's a manufacturing shop, and then we're doing a tasting room normally outside of 5, like a school.
Yeah.
We're not
Elementary.
impacting a school
Sure.
at all, or
Yeah,
a church.
yeah.
It's like it's.
You're not doing it when they're getting out of school.
No, and it's
And
not
they're
a
tiny,
big-
man.
yeah,
They're not gonna walk up to a bar and pretend like they're gonna buy a
that
drink.
kind of place, It's not a titty bar or whatever.
Right.
So it's like we're pretty. It's legit.
So that leads me to another question, because did y'all know what y'all were doing when you decided to do it down here? I mean, did you,
Down here, meaning this side of town.
as far as downtown,
don't know what
you know
I'm
what I
doing
mean?
now.
As far as like, no, I'm
I
saying
woke
like,
up this morning. I was
I
like,
mean,
what am I doing?
because
Why am I doing this?
I did
though?
an interview thing earlier. I was like, what am I doing here? I don't know. It just,
I mean, like, you know how like downtown is
the
becoming like more like everybody wants to be downtown. You got Southtown. You have the area by the Alamo Dome. All of this area.
Those things were different.
We've been
7
we
years
looked
ago.
at several different places,
8
though,
years ago.
and the landscape now is different than it was.
Right. I mean, but did y'all? Did that?
No,
Did
we
that
passed
lend
the
it-
Pearl. I mean, you want to talk about San Antonio centric? Pearl wasn't even a real thing yet.
Right.
Yeah, we passed on land across the street on stuff. They're like, this is probably like every other project. Never
So
went
no,
anywhere.
you didn't have this
There's no
wasn't
insight.
intentional. Yeah, there was just like
You know what? I'll tell you what it was.
Well, it
we
was
had
sort
dinner
of-
up the
there was
street.
A couple of things. Go for it.
Yeah, we had a dinner a couple of streets from here, and a realtor that sent us a message. Hey, there's a lot for sale in that area. Go look at it.
Okay.
And it just happened to have been November of 2011.
Sounds about right.
And
it was a second
Saturday.
Which is a thing in the neighborhood. So
Yeah.
we rolled by,
And it was
there
a party
Party
with nothing here
just on the lot.
on the street.
No, not
well,
on the
not
lot,
on the
but
lot,
in
on the
the
street.
neighborhood.
Okay,
Between the
Behind
buildings.
us is an art gallery around, like over there, art galleries. And so the folks were like walking in between.
Okay.
And we knew this lot was for sale, and we're like,
Huh.
well,
Why not be here?
why not be here? And the lot was relatively cheap at the time, I mean, not,
We didn't
not
know
for us.
We didn't know there were crack pipes and syringes we would have to clean, but
Right.
that's the problem with a transitioning neighborhood on the
Right.
tracks.
Right.
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 It's
I mean,
literally on the tracks.
It had its problems, but we're like, yeah, that works for
I'm
us.
surprised we haven't had a train come through yet. It's
Yeah.
been talking
I'm
for
waiting-
10 minutes
I've been
already.
waiting for it.
It'll be anytime. It'll be anytime.
Bless.
But
Feel blessed.
yeah, we took a vacant lot and had an
Moved a
architect
lot of
and some
dirt
engineers.
for a few months, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so that's the craziest part for me was like knowing your spot and then getting into the distilling game, like when you have a full-time job, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna try this or I'm gonna do this. So like, was there family? You mentioned family earlier. Was other family like in this game? Like,
On the family level, my grandfather was a winemaker and distiller at the family level.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So Eastern Europe, you farmed in free time if you had land. He married a woman. My grandma was Croatian, so she came with land on the coast and that had vineyards.
there's
so,
your trust fund right there.
Yeah, there was no trust fund. There's 8 grandparents.
Chris is looking like, wait, what?
There's 8 grandparents who are dead, and each had 2 kids, and each one of those had 2 kids, and I'm one of
it's like-
64.
Oh,
There's nothing
Yeah,
there.
none of that shit.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
But it's still there. In fact, 4 of us just traveled the Balkans last year, and I took them by the old
Last year, that
house.
shit was like 2017.
Whatever. Yeah,
Shit.
it's been a couple
Couple of
years.
A
years.
few years that we went back there to this, land that obviously his family has been back there for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that?
I mean, the whole trip was fantastic. Like, I don't know. I love that entire part of the world just because it's.
Had you been there before?
I hadn't been to the Croatian coast. I'd been to Belgrade like 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
And it's like, I mean, it's been voted the party capital of the world for a reason.
Yeah.
It's a place to party.
Okay.
And that's what they do there. It's really nice. I don't know, for that sort of thing. So
Cool.
I love that. This is my first time getting down to the coast, which is like pristine and some shit you see in the movies. And so where they spent a lot of their summers was this fantastic little house that sort of backed into this national park that had these fucking waterfalls. That was, again, some shit from the movies.
Wow.
That I'm like, I spent my summers like hanging out in tumbleweeds, pastures and shit. Like, this is, these guys are hanging out in like.
When you ain't got much, you stay on the public lands. Hold on.
I've got pictures of this, and it's like, I'm telling you, waterfalls in like lush green, crystal clear, like it's a movie.
Yeah.
And so that's where these guys spent their summers. And so around there were these vineyards and stuff.
Listen, hold on. I want to set the record straight. We're talking about
You've been talking bougie with me. I don't know for how long.
Listen, hold on. Let's set the record straight. But hold on.
You left when you were 10.
Yeah, but hold on. It's important to mention, right? The Balkans, Eastern Europe in the 80s is not a French Riviera, even from the movies, right? It was a part of the world that just got discovered, by the Western world kind of thing, right? We, as kids, we would count license plates from, German visitors that would come down, or maybe Italians, but you didn't have Americans traveling to the Balkans until, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? I mean, now you have Chinese cruise ships that roll in and take over Dubrovnik. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's an evolution that was much more recent than 30 years ago kind of thing,
Waterfalls.
The waterfalls were there a million years. They're beautiful. They're incredible. And it was a park where you could drive the car down, park by the falls, and you set up camp for the day because that's what you did.
Yeah.
You couldn't afford your own pool, right? So you went to the river. It just happens to be really pretty because nobody else was around. Yeah. Fast forward 30 years and now it's like Disneyland. It was
still really cool, but from what this guy was talking about, it wasn't the same because you had like this set path you had to walk on, and you got to see all this fun shit happening around, and you got to one spot where you could actually get in the water and swim. This guy's talking about back in the day, you could sit anywhere you wanted to, and it was like little
you pulled
pools
your car up
with,
there,
a million waterfalls along those paths that you could just hang out in.
You went to the beaches, and now you've got there's hotels upon hotels. Back in the day, you used to have. You set up camp in the shade, and then you had the camp out in the sun, right? And then you ran between the two. When it got hot, you went to the shade. Now they're all, pools with salt or sweet water, whatever, and fancy hotels. Like, that's the evolution of the Balkans, or particularly the Croatian side of the coast.
Really nice.
Montenegro.
So the uncle, so he's the one that kind of got you with the idea, or
no? They were trying really hard to talk us out of it.
One of your uncles was like, "Don't do this. This doesn't make any sense. Without $1 million, you're never gonna be able to do it." And we were like, "This motherfucker don't know what he's talking about. $1 million.
I'm never gonna have $1 million."
Right.
No, we sort of shrugged it off and was like, "He's stupid. $1 million." But as we got closer, we're like, "We could use $1 million."
Right. Yeah. We'll make that
really
work.
like $1 million, but no, because we could probably use it to get going. So
right.
He was actually not far off from what you would need to get something like that going. He might have been pulling a number out of his ass. I don't know, but
but he was close.
Actually, a pretty legit number.
Yeah.
Who knew?
If we'd only listened, right?
Yeah.
I'd be hanging out after my day job, clocked out at 5, and having a good time at the bar.
Well,
instead I'm buffing glassware and
Well, and that's what lends to why, like, I wanted to have you guys on is that idea, like that, like of, okay, a lot of people told us you're crazy. It takes this much. It's don't do it. And then yet you kept on.
Hold on. This is
on,
not a psych session, and we're
No,
not going to.
well,
we're not going to turn into
All right.
He's going to give us a bill for like a couples. What do you call it? Counseling here. It's all your fault.
Some of those specific examples, though, were like, well, why did you? People were telling you couldn't do it or you shouldn't do it because we thought they were full of shit, and we're like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
So it wasn't like that I'm not saying we didn't have this belief in ourselves, but we weren't like, we've got this. It was more like, you know what the fuck you're talking about.
Right.
So it was the idea that we thought we knew more than they did, and maybe we did, maybe we didn't, but it wasn't like this strong, solid belief in like, I've got this. It was just more of like, you know what the fuck you're talking about.
But no, but you believed in, like, you knew what you were doing, and you just needed a way to do it.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that goes with that question.
Although the first oh shit moment was when the guy started excavating for the dirt, the foundation, because in the morning we had
serving as a general contractor, you're like, oh shit, this is happening. I'm overseeing this.
Well, but hold on, not even. I mean, before then everything was just on paper, Excel sheets, and submitting it to the bank, right? It wasn't until the guy dropped off the equipment and then
You saw all the equipment.
well,
and then,
the equipment shows up.
Yeah.
You had a perfect lot, and then at the end of the day, there's a hole in the ground, and then you're like, "Holy shit! I just paid money to dig this hole, then I have to spend more money to fill up."
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why? What did I get myself into?
Right.
And then from there, it's kind of falling off the cliff for a little bit because right off the bat, there's something that went wrong, right? The wrong contractor doing the wrong thing, or whatever, and then you've got this hole. You got yourself in a hole, literally.
Literally.
And
How do I get out of this?
And then you have to continue doing it because the alternative is very expensive and, quite frankly, embarrassing because you've got, you had family and friends trusting you or having, believing in you, and then you can't not get it done.
Right.
And from there, it's just one after, cascading from one thing to another. And, there's always this belief that, oh, it's hard right now, it'll get easier. It's only going to get harder.
It's funny you say that.
we're in the middle of a pandemic.
No, hold on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
To put things in perspective,
100%.
Fuck the pandemic, though. It's funny you say that, where you always think, if this just gets done, then it's going to be easier. Because I remember thinking, if we just get open and done with construction, because construction was a pain in the ass.
Right.
It's like, if we just get open, we've got this. And partially true.
Right.
But then it's like,
as you grow,
it
as
never
new
gets
thing
easier.
pops
It's
up,
like there's always something else to be like, well, if this just happens in this. No, it sucks. It's hard. It's never going to be this, like, you reach some sort of level where now it's like, it's easy. No.
$1 million.
Every day you
and
fucking,
everything.
Maybe that happens for some people. I don't know. Maybe
didn't
that'll
get
happen for
lucky.
us eventually.
Yeah, we didn't get
It just
lucky.
hasn't happened yet, and there's no.
I got gray hair and I'm getting fat. You know what I mean? Like this is it.
Well, I mean,
Well, the drinking helps.
These things aren't happening.
Kind
I don't think I'd blame it on the alcohol, man.
Okay,
It's lack of a regular diet and exercise.
There you
know
go.
what I mean? That's,
coupled with the alcohol,
Right.
sure.
combined with that.
So
breakfast tacos on the run don't help.
So let's talk about the pandemic right now. I mean, you opened up that box. So when all this happened about a month ago, how did that hit y'all? Like, what have y'all been doing since then? Like, has it affected you?
Yeah. How does it continue to affect us? We early on we committed to our group. I mean, we've got 5 people on staff now. We started out 2 + 1, and then we had some more partners come join us, and then we had some more staff that we grew into. But maybe right as the talk in the States was happening around this pandemic, we kind of hunkered down with our team on a Monday morning, and we said, hey, if this thing makes it to Texas, right? Because there's that part of you thinking it's only going to stay on the outskirts where they originally, started reporting it. And, we said, look, if it ever comes down this way and, we have to get closed or something happens, then just, show up at 9 o'clock and we'll continue to make payroll and we'll continue to make, health insurance payments because our staff, some of our staff depends on that. Mm-hmm. So we kind of made that commitment sort of very early on. And, from there it went to, okay, well, you can't serve on site, but people can serve to go. So we kind of pivoted a tiny bit. And then all of a sudden there was a shelter in place, and unless you were an essential business, you had to close. And, we had a little bit of a scramble to make sure that breweries and distilleries were included in the essential business, food, food chain component.
We were included.
And the truth was, we were lucky with that. The city council made that inclusion, and we were able to stay open in a limited capacity. What we discovered was, for 6 years we grew the entire both brands, the spirit and the beer, with the chefs and bartenders in mind. It was, we wanted to be the beverage, the spirit and the beer makers for the bartenders and chefs. And we've done that really well. There's a ton of great chefs and great restaurants where the only beer they pour is our beer. If they carry one draft, it's our draft. And I never would have thought that in one day, all of them would close.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah.
In one day. On the same day. And so we had some novelty cans that, the law changed in September that allowed us to do sales of beer to go. Brew pubs have always had it, but breweries couldn't. And as a sort of novelty and something cute, we decided to put one of our beers in a can. Mm-hmm. And had we not done that in September, come March of 2020, we would have had nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was just a coincidence.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We got lucky. And then we started pivoting to how do you sell more cans of beer, and we started working out, chefs that decided to commit to their teams and stay open, wanted to support us, and they started bundling, family meals, family size portions, and 6-packs.
Yeah.
And one chef did it, and then another chef thought it was a good idea, and then we reached out to the third chef, and then the 5th chef and the 10th chef, and the local grocery chain was incredibly supportive when we reached out, and literally said we need an outlet, and for off-premise sales it's grocery stores, right? So we've I think folks saw a dedicated, down-to-earth group, and they said, the only chance to stay in business is if we come through for them, and we're in 8 different grocery stores in this crazy times that we would never have done had we continued our business as usual, because we wouldn't have had the need.
That's awesome. I mean, so we hadn't talked about your lineup, right? So let's talk about, to give the audience kind of a little bit of everything that you guys have gotten into since you've opened up. You started with Rakia. So give me a little bit of history on that for people who don't know, because when I've told people about Dorćol, they're like, they didn't know what Rakia was.
Well, let's start with what is Dorćol, right?
Okay.
It's like, what is Dorćol? Well, how to say it is Dorćol, right? The C's a CH, because we get Dorkol, the Dorsol all the time, but it's
Right.
Dorćol. It's a neighborhood in Belgrade, Serbia, where Boyan's from.
Okay.
So it sort of makes sense for
Cool.
us, right? To
Yeah.
do that, to make a strange foreign name
Yeah.
as the name of our company, but whatever.
Yeah, no, it's
Rakia is a Serbian word for brandy.
okay.
So if you say Rakia, that just means brandy.
Okay.
So we make an unaged apricot brandy. And Kinsman is the brand name, and that's sort of a throwback to Boyan's family tradition or family heritage of making this type of spirit.
Okay.
And so that's what we started with, and we opened in 2013 with that. And then we sort of opened up as a brewery in 2015. We brought on beer. High Wheel's our beer brand.
Okay.
And that's, for us, is we love to travel, and we thought bicycling, or we sort of thought of the concept as High Wheel as a mode of transportation through some of the classic brewing regions in the world.
Okay.
And that's normally what we do on the beer side, is focus on some of those classic brewing styles. So we've got some German beer, Belgian beer, English beer, West Coast style beer, and that sort of thing. So
And there's a third partner. Or
we got a lot of partner.
well, there's a third
No, there's
person that
yeah.
helps with that.
Of course, yeah.
Randy's our third musketeer. He handles all the brewing production side of things and that sort of stuff. So.
One of the things in year number 2 is we wanted to shore up the banking accounts, if you will, so we can expand a little bit of the distilling stuff. And a single malt whiskey was something that we wanted to get into. And we did hire a professional to help us with some financials and evaluations and stuff like that. And in that process, we met another fellow local who is at the time working in oil and gas, and he was been a home brewer for 20 years. And he was really into classic beer and classic styles, and he was kind of like us, dedicated to doing things the right way. I mean, in the spirit making world, there's a million ways to cheat the product and the customer, and for us, sort of the pursuit of perfection was kind of what drove us in Kinsman. And we won a couple of gold medals with it. It was world's highest rated brandy one year. Playboy magazine wrote about it. I mean, those are some things that there's a couple of dudes on the south side of San Antonio with 2,500 square foot production space. You can't afford that kind of PR firm,
right?
To get that kind of placement.
Yeah,
we
can, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, not on the south side of San Antonio. 2,500 square feet, they can't. So anyway, we connected with Randy and clicked on conceptually and what we wanted to do, and he was looking to literally move into the neighborhood, a couple of blocks
How
from
did you
here.
meet him?
So one of the local entrepreneurship programs that the city and a couple of local nonprofits put together has a cohort for food and beverage and getting into that. And it was a very proactive way to engage folks that have that entrepreneurial spirit. And Randy was one of the folks going through the system. They reached out, the organizers of it, to host one of the training sessions at Dorćol and have us submit sort of a presentation on facility development and one of those things you should consider as you look to start a business. Yeah. And Randy was looking to do something, and after one of those sessions, he said, "Hey, let's hang out for a minute. I've got a couple questions. You mentioned you guys are raising money." So, over the next couple months, we just connected, and we were looking to raise money. He was looking to blow some money, and we managed to do it together.
Match made in heaven, right?
Match made in heaven.
Yeah.
3 dummies, wanting to start a brewery and brewing operation and expand distilling on less than $1 million again.
Right.
No, because beer was always something we wanted to have here, right? Like, we sort of operate our tasting room like a bar. So folks came in here all the time and they're like wanting beer, and it's like, well, we don't make beer, so we can't do it. And why would we want to? I mean, the idea is that we showcase what we make here. So I don't want to carry Bud Light, even if that satisfies a guest. That's not what we do.
Right.
So that was sort of a missing piece to me. It's something we always really wanted to do. It was just more. At meeting Randy, just became a thing that was like, okay, it's happening sooner rather than later.
Okay.
And that worked out. Yeah, that we've been at it now. What? 4 or 5 years.
We launched that in 2015, so 5 years as a team, and
it's working out really well.
Well, yeah, and like I was looking at y'all's website, and just the fact of even like where all the places where it's at, around town. I mean, it's awesome because I remember I took my wife to an anniversary dinner at Signature, and
there's a cocktail on the menu with Kinsman.
It's right, and I said, look, Boyan,
Chef Wiseman has been a supporter from luxury days where they didn't serve liquor, they served beer, and then when they opened up Signature, we've been lucky they've had a Kinsman cocktail since they opened, so that's really exciting.
That's awesome. So 2015, you got into the beer, and then how many? So Rocky is the only spirit, and then you got the beer, and you got different
styles. So we're 10 deep on the draft system. We've got 1 can and some things that are going to be coming out over the next few weeks. Again, as we continue to pivot in the current economic environment, we're also going to release some very small batch spirit stuff that's been aging. Some of it for 5-6 years. So
we've got some stuff going on.
There's an inventory of some things that we never rush to put out because we always thought there'd be just there's small enough runs that there would just be a very short-lived injection of cash.
Yeah.
You're at a point where you're trying to monetize whatever asset you've got, and if that means 50 gallons of a spirit, you're gonna find a way to monetize it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we're getting creative, and the days are a little bit different. It seems like never worked harder for less, but hey, we thought if we just did one more thing, it'd get easier. So who knows? If we get this, it'll maybe get easier. I don't know.
So how many years today were Dorćol?
So it'll be December 13th will be 7 years.
Since we've been open.
December 15th?
13th.
It's my birthday.
We opened. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Well, we should.
Well, I celebrated a birthday here. Remember?
Yeah. Oh, no, there's been.
You don't remember? Yeah, you don't remember.
We opened Friday the 13th of 2013.
Yeah.
So it had to be like 2 or 3 years ago. I remember you didn't have this space out here.
Oh yeah, that's
been about 2 years.
So it had to be a couple years out.
Yeah.
We started to. So we definitely observed the on-premise sales. The margin is helps offset a ton of cost, and so we decided to expand the bar operation by adding a second bar. So that's an ongoing sort of project that we'd like to think that this year will be the year we get it done. Your next birthday, maybe by next birthday we'll have the second bar open.
Party for you.
Yeah, very VIP.
For you.
So 10 deep on the beer, and then the can. Are you doing that like locally, or is that?
So we actually have a mobile canning company that comes down and spends a day with us and then cans a ton of beer. And we've been lucky since this crisis that we moved a ton of beer. So they've actually made we're making a run up to their place next week. Randy coordinated something as a stopgap, and then they're coming back down on early May. So it'll be it's interesting how, you go from practically ignoring the retail aisle at the grocery store because you don't have a product to place, to all of a sudden designing collateral that'll work, that'll grab somebody's attention who's walking a 100-foot beer cooler.
Yeah.
So those are some things that, putting a UPC on a can that you didn't think of because we weren't in the business of selling.
Yeah,
we didn't need to. All of a sudden to get reprints done, you have to use a different vendor and their lead time is this, and then you're redesigning because it has to be modified just a tiny bit, and then you're testing for UPC, does it read right, and is the color composition right, and the things that are not related to production
right.
are what end up consuming most of your day anyway. So, having that flexibility to pivot and wear those hats and have a team that's able to do it on the dime with you and be support instead of a distraction. That's a tall order.
You mentioned design. So who is responsible for a lot of that?
This?
Yeah.
The top is that first investor. His team actually was able to put something together for us quick and affordable. So we've had the wax top and the embossing and the what do they call it, foiling since we opened.
There's a little bit of foiling on there, yes.
A little bit,
It's kind of a cute little setup,
nice little
easy clean.
label.
And then a local design firm, Heavy Heavy's done the entire beer line. So from the logos, obviously through the marketing collateral, and then the cans. So we're kind of excited in the over the next few weeks. There's going to be another can that'll come out to kind of accompany this.
Well,
so.
I mean, the reason why when I came in and I had asked the girls for the Betty, because I saw your Instagram and it saw the chef's package thing with the Betty can, and I thought, I want to try that. You know what I mean? Just because it was eye-catching. Yeah. And then you mentioned y'all at UT like taking a marketing class, but what was your degree in?
Math and finance.
And yours?
Health education.
He's shaking it.
I mean, it's not
but
informing.
So no, I mean, like I was looking for a business angle because for me, mine was marketing, and so like for me, like I like the fact that y'all all of this like it intrigues me of like how you came up with it, like what
there's some really good qualified people that were able to bounce things to, and they run with it, and then we kind of clean up where we need to, or provide some direction, or sit and annoy them until the very last rendition.
Yeah, no,
Do this, do that, move this, move that.
That's how those things go.
It requires patience and folks who are into what you're doing. I mean, otherwise, I couldn't imagine any of this being worth anybody's time. You know what I mean? It's way too much work to deal with me, and it can't be enough reward for anybody financially.
So let's talk about that. So y'all's relationship, I mean, has been forever. The dynamic of that, and then you've got 5 other people, and with Randy as well. So, and then I saw you on Instagram with Katie, right?
The silver edition when it comes out. That's what she says.
So that's funny. Like, so talk about that. I mean, like, because as far as, the employee dynamic or like even just like the partner dynamic and challenges with that, like.
Well, I think what's difficult is that the current environment is just challenging anyway, right? Where, there's anxiety galore on, there's a shortage of toilet paper, right? I mean, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
But there are problems, much bigger than
right.
branding design. But the impressive part is in the midst of all that, I think the team is able to, focus on the bigger picture, and that is we do have to design some stuff today so that we can have it on the market tomorrow. And I think the baseline for that was folks who wanted to be here. It's we don't have a national recruiting agencies that bring people in.
Right.
We've had a person behind the bar that's been an instrumental part of our program since we opened, and it's every time it was somebody that knew us and knew the product and wanted to be a part of it. And that's literally from day one. And I think that's where the strength in the team comes in, because people could have left or quit, and I think somebody told me with unemployment benefits right now, you can make more if you stay at home than if you went to work. I don't know if those things are true or not, but
like you said, folks want to be here, right? They value.
They want to be part of the team.
They want to be a part of the team. Yeah.
And I think that's Katie retired, and we jokingly said, look, you're too young to stay at home and read the paper all day. Come hang out with us, and she's been instrumental in us being able to grow the beer brand and place Kinsman.
Yeah.
You know, Randy had a very lucrative, successful career, and he didn't have to turn that in for 14-hour days and no payroll, right? And sweat out, but you know, in 1,000-degree heat. But he wanted to. You know, I mean, his drive was to make beer that others will get to enjoy, and you know, he's proud of what the team is doing and getting the product out and supporting other chefs that, you know, are in the kitchen 12-hour days. I mean, I was at, you know, a chef friend of ours is running the kitchen while his staff is working the garden because, you know, plates still need to be made, but he doesn't need the labor because, you know, you're doing takeout. And, you know, this was week 1. And, you know, now there's obviously a little bit more work because I think people are settling into the routine is if you want to support the local culinary scene, you're going to have to find ways to, you know, go pick up that food, you know? Yeah. And so I think those, you know, those things are generally dependent on a community that wants to come together for a common cause, and for our little team of both investors and owners that, you know, come work big events for free, and the staff that, you know, put their eggs in this basket of, you know, a small business, you know, small family business trying to, you know, sort of not just survive but grow out of an uncertain, you know, business environment. It's sort of a testament to, I think, you know, they're just as goofy and crazy as we are. You know what I mean? Because, you know, you're not a state or city or government employee kind of thing, but, you know, you're working for a small business, and, you know, one thing we can be proud of is, you know, we've never bounced a check or, you know, missed payroll. You know, we might forget it's the 15th and then scramble, you know, but that happened today. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, everybody was hanging out, chit-chatting.
Scrambling to write the checks. Yeah.
Well, no.
Shit, I forgot.
One of the guys literally said, hey, are we going to do checks today or tomorrow? It's like, oh, my God, what date is it? You know,
no, that's what.
That literally happened this afternoon.
It happened today. You know, it wasn't. Yeah,
hold on.
It was just a
payroll got sent to us. Yeah. Mrs. Campos sent all the payroll in last week.
Yeah,
you know, we
just fucking forgot.
We're scrambling. You know, we start distilling at 6 in the morning and it runs till midnight.
Yeah.
You
know, right now it's time. The times right now it's hard to keep. Yeah, your days are all like meshed together anyway. So it's kind of.
Kids are not going to school, right? So you can't. What is it? Monday or Friday, right?
I'm constantly asking my wife the same thing.
I don't have kids, so I don't have that. It's still the same
thing. But there's
no
school zone on the drive to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, hold on.
I got here like in 10 minutes, man, from way up north.
That's all the traffic part. Yeah.
So I mean, so talk about how this area has changed and how that's helped you guys. I mean, you know, this area downtown, from when you guys started, when you guys opened up, you know, the tracks and the needles and everything else.
But I mean, that wonder which way is downtown, they come off the train.
Yeah, I mean,
that stopped. That particular thing stopped.
But I mean, I've seen from me being here a couple of times, and you know, just knowing where y'all are at. Like, I know that y'all, and then y'all's relationships with the downtown scene. And
absolutely,
all of that.
Man. The culinary scene has evolved and changed. I mean, you went from having I mean, I don't know what you would call that bar that sat there, you know, for years.
For a little while. Hold on, the one where Forno is now?
Correct, yeah.
I forgot what the name of it was. Yeah.
You know, you went from having a hole in the wall to having possibly a James Beard, chef moving into the neighborhood and making some incredible pizzas, you know, with a hand-built oven, and you know, they do their own, you know, they butcher their own protein and then make their own sausages and, you know, dry and cure their own meats, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's something that wouldn't have crossed anybody's mind.
World-class, high-quality shit happening right over there.
Around the corner, you know. We had another brew pub, you know, we had a brew pub that joined, 2 brew pubs that joined, you know, since we moved to the neighborhood. We had 2,000 residential units go up in 8 years. I mean, those are some things.
A
coffee shop, another art gallery that opened up.
A restaurant that's going to be in there at some point. So I mean, a lot of things have changed for sure. I mean,
there hasn't been any new construction on the commercial side yet. You know, that's an unfortunate. You know, that needs to probably evolve a little bit, and then, you know, maybe if we get some more focus from the city on some general development, you know, that'll help, you know, drive a little bit more investment,
But y'all have been pretty collaborative with a lot of places around town. Yeah.
I mean, you have to, man. We're not Chicago, New York, Houston. You know, where San Antonio is very blue collar. You know, if you took San Antonio out of that mentality that we're the 7th largest city and actually looked at the MSA that defines, you know, some of these things,
criterion right
we're
there,
the 25th.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, So it's a very small, close-knit community. It's, folks that have worked here are now working at the bars that are our biggest supporters. I mean, the chefs that did pop-ups here are now running incredible kitchens of their own, or they participate in our annual official Ice Cream of San Antonio competition because they dig what we do and want to support us.
The brand in terms of the bars and stuff. So yeah, we work with folks who are our partners and we're their partners too. So I mean, we're definitely
a lot of give and
in
take.
this game to be. I mean, it's a relationship game, right? Like you've got to build a relationship with folks, and they've got to be genuine relationships and not just like I'm trying to
feed off of you.
It's not like that at all.
We're too small for anybody to use this, so it's not.
Folks, and so we value those, and they value the relationship they have with us too. So.
Well, and I think that attributes to y'all's acumen as far as of your business acumen of like, even though like it's trial by fire, and it's like you guys have taught yourself, you guys have like taught everything that you guys have done pretty much, right? Like you like you said, you had to teach yourself, you had to learn it, and I think for that and also building those relationships your success with it. I think that leads to that because you can't do it alone, right? If you were just gonna like come in here, open up shop, and just distill and not have any.
This business, right? The idea, this is relationship building, right?
100%.
I'm not really good at that.
We have a $60. We have a $60 bottle of Kinsman. That on the south side of San Antonio 7 years ago nobody would give two shits about.
Right.
But there's a bartender out of Houston who was competing in the national most imaginable bartender competition, and she called up and said, "Hey, would you guys be all right if I used Kinsman as part of my cocktail?" And
like, nah.
Are you kidding me? I mean, some other brands would have paid tens of thousands of dollars for that kind of endorsement, and she wouldn't have ever taken it. Her thing is, I'm in it to win it, and your brand is something I can partner with. Yeah. That's incredible for us. There's Anvil is an incredible bar in Houston, and at one point we were the only Texas spirit on their shelf because they weren't into brands that were repackaging or rebottling, neutral grain alcohols from other states. There's an incredible bar, 1919. It's a couple blocks from here, and they've got 15 or so taps, beer taps, and since we opened, they've had our spirit on their menu, and we have 5 of our beers on their tap wall, and they're all different styles that are classic, and the the barman that owns it is into quality. You know what I mean? So those are some things where there's a former instructor at the Culinary Institute has one beer on tap, and it's the Betty. So it's those are some things that if it weren't for genuine relationships and folks responding to Three Musketeers that are committing everything they've got to genuinely making a good product, I don't think they wouldn't have resonated with them. So.
Right. So do you have a full-time other gig, or this is it?
Maybe.
Plead the fifth. Yeah, it's after hours. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I work for the state health department.
Okay.
I mean,
hey, boss.
Whatever.
Well, I mean, because
I don't know what to tell you.
that is the thing that for me, like.
It's a side hustle, all right?
No.
I mean,
how can this be a side hustle, bro?
This is an expensive hobby, dude. This is
really.
This is literally. I mean, it's a 100-hour a week hobby.
Okay.
Because if you were looked at it as a financial investment, there are a ton ways to do better.
Oh, see, I know.
I mean, a ton.
Right. So,
and if you're looking at it from a career and you're not getting paid, then you made a shitty career choice. And if you're not lucky enough
that's
to
how
have a
somebody
side job,
outside looking in could say that, but you could say it like, well, this is my.
Yeah, this is your baby, right?
This is my
this
baby.
is their. Yeah, I mean, the three of us talk about this as being a. Yeah. It's like, hold up,
This
if you're
is
gonna do
6-year-old.
Yeah. It's your puppy because it'll never grow up and be on its own.
Fuck her. As a 6-year-old,
I mean,
probably they're probably.
They went through the teething. They went through the teething.
I'm sure there are parents out there that can be like, my fucking 6-year-old sucks. There are moments that we have that same.
Of course, yeah, of course. You love your child, but there's times you want to strangle them.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
This is one of those where, yes, we're having a blast.
Our first train.
We did well.
It almost feels like an earthquake.
We've, I think we've done well enough with, presenting ourselves out there as being, truth to goodness committed.
Yeah.
I think, you can, that stuff you can't really fake. Not, I hope not well anyway, because I hope I haven't been faked by somebody else. But, I think people see that, they connect with us. They, when one of us is not behind the bar, they text or ask or wonder, is everything cool,
where are you? I'm at home. Hanging out.
Give me a minute. I got a high fever, right? Yeah. Allergies are killing me.
There you go.
We're at culinary events and, chefs come in and, we barter food for drink. Those kinds of things, they don't work unless it's, world-class quality shit, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants trash. There's plenty of that.
Not married.
This is it.
No kids. All right.
This is it?
This is it.
Your
this is your baby.
This is the 6-year-old.
This is the 6-year-old.
Oh my
God.
God.
Just checking.
Luckily, Randy's is grown up and out of the house.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a lot of, you got a full-time job and then this is your hobby. So, that's a lot of time, man. That's why I'm that's why I wanted to see if like the support system behind the wall, you know what I mean? Like
That's what makes it work, dude.
Yeah.
Because think about it. If there were crisis, I always, my family's pretty close and always emphasizes business. But, it's like as long as everybody stays on their track and, people don't get in trouble or get sick or, get a car accident, that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like, there's very little room for error or distractions. And, those are some things that, you get into those medical issues and all of a sudden, the whole world is upside down and you're having to deal with them in the moment. And, sometimes, that is making a trip out of state, you know what I mean? Or getting to a hospital. But the part of the reason it works is, there's probably some psychosis things with the three of us that are committed to seeing something to the end. So it doesn't matter.
Giving up.
Yeah. You have to have that, right? Persistence. And then the general blessing that things are pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
None of the three of us worry about, are we going to be able to, put gas in the car kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like we've got that kind of figured. Pretty humbled by I just bought a Subaru. You know what I mean? Like that was a big thing because. Well,
but it was the same car, right?
It was the exact same.
It was the exact same.
They were going to try to overcharge me for the damn repair. I couldn't. I didn't want to spend the money on the repair of an old car.
Yeah.
So they, they gave me a good deal on a trade-in. So that's what I did.
We had lunch and he pulls up. I was like, brand new car. It's the same one. I just got a new one.
Yeah, exactly.
Same color,
everything. Yeah.
It literally that's how it turned out.
So no flossing. There's no flossing.
There's not in that car. It's the entry model.
Yeah. But
yeah, that's having that flexibility to where you can pour everything else into this, and and right now more than ever, right? Because how long is this gonna last, right?
I think that's what everybody's worried. That's where the fear comes from, is not knowing when this is going to stop. Yeah. And I think that people deal with fear a lot of different ways, and that's all I've been talking about is how people are dealing with being home, like, having the discussions about people saying like, well, my routine's all messed up. This is messing my life up. And I'm like, no, like your life's the life as we know it is changing. Like you have to adapt. Yeah. And so, people freaked out the other day. I told us I'm going to shave my head. Like, it was a mixture. It was a mix.
This is a new deal?
This is a new deal. Like,
what was it before?
I'll show you a picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks fine.
It was long. I had it
You
long.
look fine.
Thank you.
Like,
Appreciate it.
you don't look weird at all.
But I posted of like, hey, should I do it or not? Just to see what the reaction was. And it was like, oh no. And I'm like, it's hair.
People have a lot of free time on their hands right now.
No. But because of change, right? It's the change part. And it's like no, it'll grow back. Like it'll be fine. And yeah. And
I think we're lucky that, between the three of us, I think everybody, is able to identify what needs to happen, like what needs to get done for us to come out of this. Yeah. And I think we're looking at it from, we don't want to look back on the quasi downtime, if you will, and feel like we wasted time.
Right.
Because then we should have just closed down. Correct.
Yeah, for us, it hasn't been
3 weeks ago, we made that conscious decision. Yeah. right?
Yeah.
You didn't just, sit down and wonder, oh, what should I do today? Well, I'll
Right.
get up at 5 a.m. and start distilling through midnight,
No.
and then I'll do that for the next 20 days.
No, that was you had to
We
decide
made a
that.
conscious decision to say, look, we can do a ton of stuff that we don't normally have the luxury of doing, and that included a ton of distilling. We knew we had to pivot into some more off-premise beer sales, so we jumped into a new can. That's going to come out in the next couple of weeks. We are going to probably release a couple of spirits before the end of the summer. We're diving into that. Those are some genuine commitments from not wanting to be paralyzed by the crisis, and instead, approach it from, we have an opportunity. The bar's closed. Our tasting room is closed, and we did a deep clean. I didn't realize how committed folks on the team were to a deep clean. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that you do maybe once a year, and
Hey, shit needs to happen though.
yeah, but it was incredible. I mean, I walked in the warehouse. I was like, damn, what smells so damn good? I mean,
Fabuloso?
Fabuloso.
There you go.
Right? But
Yeah.
think about it. It's a production space, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's always clean, but the idea of not having grain and not having boxes and things in
All over the
places. It's
place.
like, we organized storage spaces. We've got, I spent too much money at Container Store and Uline. You know what I mean? But you can look, open a clip, cupboard up, and it's like, wow, everything's labeled. And
I thought I was the only one that gets that catalog, man.
are you kidding me? Uline and Granger, dude. That's like I wish they gave frequent buyer points
It used
there.
to
That's,
be
that's
like,
what I can do. Yeah.
Back in my lax days with Miss Campos and everybody, that's what I would be like flipping
Looking
through.
at it,
Yeah,
I could use that.
Yeah,
I like
we need that stuff.
Can you put that to this use?
That's
I love
right,
this, you know
that's
what I mean?
right.
I mean, all of a sudden now we're looking at price rails at the HEB. I mean, like, how do you get promo material in that?
Yeah.
I mean, things that we spent 7 years not caring about.
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
a sudden we're having to quickly, team up and act, right?
yeah.
It's like, okay, you do research on this. I mean, literally our regular supplier for the can sleeves for the labels has a 6-week lead time, and we blew through our inventory in 2 weeks.
Wow.
We literally, you want to talk about in-time delivery? I mean, we were delivering beer on Friday that literally got canned that day. I mean, it was coming off the canning line, and we were filling it up in the van because we had to take it to the accounts because they were out, and we needed to get into the weekend to-go service, right? Because
awesome.
how else one of the things is, if a chef or a bartender doesn't have a product,
Right.
You'll get replaced with somebody else's product.
Right.
And our commitment was to them.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if you're willing to support us, we'll be
got
here
you.
for you. So, forget the minimum orders, forget the texts and say, I'm
Mm-hmm.
out now, go. It's like, yeah, we got you. And part of that flexibility is that we're uber local, right? I mean, it's, production's focused on the local scene. A couple accounts, on the beer side out of town, but mostly the beer is all within, the inner loop, and now we're exploring the outer loop, right? We're driving out of town, exploring the new zip codes. But
Closer to the north side?
yeah, closer to the north side, middle of the north side.
like
I mean,
it.
we're going to be curbside.
I like it.
We're curbside as of today.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some things that
the HEB.
at
saw-
the HEB, yeah.
I saw-
So those are some things that, again, those are little milestones that you celebrate that, a ton of their people were able to make possible on a 1 day's notice.
Yeah.
I mean, things that normally would take 30, 60, 90 days, folks understand that there may not be 30, 60, 90 days left in this business.
Right.
You know what I mean, for some partners. And they've been an incredible savior for that. It's, you have chefs that have opened up restaurants, a few weeks before this pandemic, then closed and try to reopen. They're like, what do I do now? Like, how do you regroup and reassess and then fucking, forge ahead, right?
Yeah.
So, the sheet metal
Oh,
relaxes after the heat. So.
I was like,
What's happening?
that wasn't a train.
What's that noise?
There's nobody in the tank, I
It's
promise.
totally normal. It's totally normal.
Keep it down.
But okay, so we've talked about your line. We've talked about kind of starting. Where do you see this? Like, I mean, what? You know what I mean? I know you're like, I'm
What's
just
next?
lucky I'm here. Like, what's next? What do you like? Where do you see this going?
Well, we're doing better than that. I mean, we're committing to growing. I mean, we're committed to. We're looking at adding some refrigeration space, for instance. It's no time as good as right now, the downtime, to take some walk-in coolers offline and build a bigger walk-in cooler, right? So those are some things that we're contemplating.
I mean, that's part of the beefing up the beer distribution, beer offerings, and modes of offering, right?
Yeah.
And then we're using this time to get a whole lot of distilling done and then figure out what that looks like and then different types of spirits that we can kind of put into barrels. And I mean, our idea is we want to keep going, and we want to keep going on the beer side, and we want to keep going on the spirit side. And it's been 6 years, and we've got one spirit on the market. That won't be the case next year, I'm going to say.
No, we'll do better than that. Yeah, we'll do better than that.
But
there's
I'm
going to
just
be a
saying,
couple
like,
things.
where we want to go, that's we're expanding offerings.
Okay.
Just a general way of saying it, I guess.
So on the Rocky,
Maybe a different state. We haven't talked about that.
Just
we had really big plans for 2020, man. Literally, we had really big plans.
That's
for
a
March
lot of other
2020.
red tape too, right? Outside, you go in a different state.
Yeah, but and part of that is somebody reached out to us. We've had those folks that reach out to us about different markets, and we actually had an out-of-state visit. A distributor that really dug what we were doing and flew in and
out-of-country visit for that one time. Right?
Oh, we did, for some exporting.
The thing is, when you say there's a lot of red tape, that's true, but we figured that out before, right?
Yeah.
We will do that again. Like, those things are like...
Yeah, we don't fear the
Well,
red
it's
tape.
more like, okay, whatever. Yeah, yes, that sucks, and it's a headache at the time, but that's not a permanent barrier, permanent roadblock to anything. It's kind of like, a lot of red tape, yeah, it's probably going to suck, but we've done it before, we can do it again. Like, we just we keep it rolling, because you know that it's manageable.
Right.
It's something that you can overcome.
Right.
It might suck, but it's just like, we got that.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like what everybody's going through right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's literally what I keep telling people. It's like, we've gone through all kinds of other stuff. Like, we'll all come out of it. You know what I mean?
That's, folks don't necessarily.
I talked with my mom
aren't
and
able to see that, but it's like we'll roll with it.
Right.
my mother had a funny story about grow in the 80s, us being children, and Chernobyl being a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about real crisis? Is there's
A lot of shit.
Western Europe is being taken over by a cloud of nuclear rain. You know what I mean? Like, that's a really serious thing if you're going out and having to go to work and eat fresh food, or that you can't eat because you can't eat fresh food at the moment.
Disruptive.
It's pretty disruptive, right? So, what we're going through right now, I think, as a planet, as humankind, there's there's definitely a much more committed, sort of average Joe. There's people that are knuckleheads and don't get it, but I think for the most part, people are resorting to following the rules and complying, and however difficult it is, kind of sucking it up. And I think in private we can, joke and, really complain about how hard life really isn't.
Right.
Because the reality is the loudest ones probably have the least to worry about.
Right.
The threshold for difficulty is shifting and changing, and I think we have a pretty high threshold. It's, I think, part of the reasons why we're still here. It's a lot easier to throw in the towel.
So what do you see as being like an obstacle coming, after this? Do you see anything like coming down the pipe or anything like that?
Talking
It's
about
really hard to compare
trends.
obstacles, right?
Well, but the hardest is going to be, are people going to come back and enjoy the on-premise bars and restaurants like they used to, right? Or is this going to change people's buying or entertainment habits, or how much is it going to get changed? I mean,
right.
We're all old enough to know what, where we were for 9/11.
Yeah.
And that disruption was nothing compared to this.
Right.
From an economic
there'll
impact.
probably definitely be players in the game who were no longer in the game, and that
Very likely,
sucks.
yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And we're doing stuff on the in the back office that's trying to prepare for coming back. I mean, local to San Antonio should mean San Antonio made. So these are some things that as an industry, we've been working on, and we were supposed to be hosting the craft brewers conference this week, and that got canceled, and that's 20,000 people from out of town that are craft beer drinkers, and everything we've done for the last 3 months was planning for CBC, and then we had the Fiesta, which is the largest event across San Antonio, and we had events lined up and offsite events lined up, and revenue that was committed lined up, and you have to pivot to how do you make sure you don't bleed out? You're chasing a positive margin that's luckily positive, but you're having to chase it to make the best of it, and so I think that, whether it's other chefs, other, bartenders, brewers, distillers, whether it's people continuing to grow their staff or preventing people from just all go on unemployment. I mean, those are commitments that I
Yeah.
think individual partners are making. And
No, 100%. I think that's awesome. The fact that how connected you are with with not just the downtown, but just the city, scene with chefs and restaurants and even the
early on, we really looked at our space as sort of an island in the sea and trying to figure out how to connect people. And that was critical for us, whether it's a Second Saturday art walk that we're part of and art that's shown on the walls that, we've never made a penny off of commissions, or vendors that we get to host, and we've never charged anybody a dime to set up shop or, a food truck or a pop-up or, whatever the case is. I think that, if God forbid this thing were to last forever and, all of a sudden nobody is drinking beer and spirits go nowhere, I think the one thing that we can go away with saying is that, we've definitely given, genuine relationships a fair shake.
Yeah.
And I think, that inspiration comes from the partners in our scene, right? I mean, like I said, that chef that doesn't open till 5 but whips up a meal for 4 because they called and they wanted in 30 minutes, and he's chasing revenue just like everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
all you can do right now.
Try standing in the kitchen for 12 hours in a hot space, and what I've got is pretty easy, actually.
Yeah. No.
You've got it easy.
Well, guys, I so appreciate the time for you guys to sit down with me and share your story. I applaud you for helping out the community, with whatever you're doing. I mean, even just like sharing your space with everybody else and being able to provide that environment. And I agree with you 100%. I think the relationships is what's gonna continue y'all's success, and as you grow, I think it's gonna lend to many more blessings. That's what from what I've seen, my short. No, just from my short. You know what I mean. From what I know from you guys, I that's my prediction. And I wish you guys the best of luck with everything. And cheers, brother.
Look at Boyan's empty glass. Just
I know he's empty. Hey,
say that.
but thank you very much, guys. And
Thanks for having us.
thank you. Yeah.
where can I know we got Fiesta in November, right? That's being rescheduled.
That'll be weird.
But what? Give the audience, I guess, either website or where they could people locally can come pick up stuff. I mean, give us.
Dorćol Spirits is probably the best way. It's on the website. It's our
That's
social
the website,
media.
But if you're talking about to support us in the meantime,
Yeah.
we've got a text hotline, right, where you can text in your orders.
Yes,
That's 210-900-4440. And so basically you just text in hey, I want to pick up a bottle of Rakia, I want to pick up some beer.
Yeah.
And either Boyan or I answer that, and we coordinate a time to pick it up. And we're pretty much here. We are here every day.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean it's available, at every 24/7.
Sure.
But normally, if you text and say, "Hey, I'm around the corner," we're here. So
I saw Rolly place his order
text
for
in that
growlers.
order.
I saw him coming out with the things. I
Rolly
was
did
like,
some shit like that.
Yeah.
He texted the thing, and I was like, "Rolly, I know you. Just text me. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Anyways,
But listen, we want to encourage people following directions.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
text,
210-900-4440.
there you go.
Text that. You can pick up some Rocky or beer for train.
Train.
number 2.
Train number 2,
that's actually
guys.
not bad. 2 for whatever.
We were blessed.
We've
We've got some supporters there across town. I mean, HEB is now a great venue. We've got
Betty and several of them.
Yeah, Betty's in several of them. We've got Twin Liquors, Specs, Alamo City Liquors, Pig Liquors, Houston Wine Merchant. There's Goody Goody out in Houston, a couple in Dallas. You've got a ton of great chefs that are open right now, from El Forno to Doe to Clementine to Charity Bar. You've got Outlaw Kitchen. You've got we're a few.
We're available at a lot of places.
A lot of places.
I always
A lot
hate
of-
naming that shit. 'Cause I'm like, I'm
What
gonna leave somebody out.
I'll do is I'm gonna put all y'all's stuff on the just on the links and everything. I'll put it on the podcast, and then that way they
that's
can
fantastic.
find you there. And but yeah, man, I appreciate the time, and thanks for the hospitality and the beer. It's
absolutely.
delicious.
Cheers,
The
man.
Betty's
Thank
the
you.
Betty's delicious. What am I drinking here?
The Irish Red.
Irish Red.
That's one of my favorites.
It's actually really, really good.
Cheers.
So cheers. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. And stay safe.
Likewise.
Thanks, man.